I'm working a lot with my PC and sometimes I'm a lazy person, so I built a quick work. I was tired of always typing my password or using other shortcuts like Alt F4 or the task manager, so I had the idea of building a little extra keyboard with a button for every shortcut I use very often, so it's easier for me to work. For the shortcuts I want to simplify, I choose Alt F4, task manager, switch between windows, lock the PC and unlock the PC. For the unlocking mechanism I want to use a fingerprint sensor because that's a pretty easy and safe way to make sure that only I can unlock my PC. So I made a little model in Inventor which looks printed out like that. Here you can see all the 5 test buttons and the fingerprint sensor. Disassembled you can see all the parts. Here we got the outer casing, a front cover, a top cover, the thing that holds the keys, the 5 keycaps, the fingerprint sensor, the Arduino Pro Micro, and the 5 screws. Next step was to make the custom keycaps. For that I imported the raw keycap model and all the icons as DFX files into Fusion 360. I made these DFX files in Inkscape and I use DFX right here because I can use them as an extrusion, but that's a topic I already talked about in another video. Check that out if you're interested. I printed them on my Anycubic Photon Zero in clear green resin because I painted them anyways. I used the same golden spray paint as for the Sith Holocron. Definitely check that video out if you like Star Wars and dioramas. After the paint was dry, I took a black marker and painted over the top of the keycaps. Then I used a paper towel with a bit of isopropanol alcohol to wipe it away, so that the black marker just stays there where the icons are. Here you can see the schematics I made. I connect all the buttons to a common ground and then every button individually to the Arduino Pro Micro. That's actually a pretty inefficient way, but it will work out just fine for this little application. So next step was to do all the soldering. The fingerprint sensor needs a bit of extra work because of its LED. When you connect the sensor to an Arduino, inside the sensor there is a blue LED that turns on, and it won't turn off until you disconnect the sensor. But I don't want the LED to be turned on all the time, so I took the sensor apart, and here you see these 2 pins are for the LED. So I desoldered them, connected 2 cables, and put everything together. I made a little hole on the back so I can feed the cable through, and now I can turn on and off the LED individually. Now all that was left to do was the coding part. So first of all, you have to tell the sensor which finger is which. For that I recommend a tutorial I linked in the video description that explains how to set up the fingerprint sensor. First I include 3 libraries. For the keyboard and for the fingerprint sensor and the mouse library. You actually don't need that, but I include it anyways. So here I got 6 integers, 1 for every shortcut and 1 for delay. The first for the task manager is called TS, the second for switching is called SW, the next for Alt F4 is called Alt, to unlock is called unlock, and to lock is called lock. Here I got the integer A, which is for the delay, which is 500. This stuff right here is for the fingerprint sensor, but the only important line is this, because here you have to define which are the pins of the Arduino that are connected to the fingerprint sensor data pins. Here I connected pins 16 and 14 of the Arduino Leonardo. If you're using different pins, you have to change these digits. Right here in the void setup, I say that all these 5 pins are inputs. That are the pins which get connected to the buttons. Then I set digital pin 10 as an output, because this pin controls the blue LED. Right here, I write all the 5 pins here high, so the Arduino will always read them as high. Here in the void loop I assign the integers to the pins, so for example the integer unlock, which is here set to 0, is set to the value that the Arduino reads at pin 5. Because pin 5 is always set to high, unlock will always be set high or 1. But when I connect it to ground by hitting the button, unlock will be set to 0, so not high. This code block right here is pretty important, so let me explain what happens step by step. First we have a look at the integer TS and its state. Normally TS is high. Why? Here TS is assigned to digital pin 6, and digital pin 6 is high, as we can see here. So the Arduino reads TS is high, that's not low, so I don't care about that stuff in here, and go over to else, and else stays key release all, so no keys are pressed. But when I press the button, I connect pin D6 to low. And that means the Arduino reads, okay, TS equals low, that's right. So I start the code inside here. What happens when I press the task manager button? The Arduino presses left control, left shift and escape, because that's a shortcut for a task manager, and then it waits a delay of A, which I set is 500. And that basically repeats for all the other buttons as well. For example, the lock button, same, Arduino looks lock is low, so I press the left Windows key, and L here is keyboard right L, that's like when I would press L on the keyboard. And when lock is high, so the key is not pressed, no keys are pressed. What's interesting is for the unlock mechanism. When the unlock pin is pressed, first digital pin 10 is written high, so the LED lights up. Then the Arduino presses backspace, so my screensaver goes away and I can type in my password. And for that, the Arduino looks for a fingerprint ID. Every time this is triggered, so get fingerprint is triggered, the sensor looks for a fingerprint ID, and I made this multiple times inside here because I wanted to have a bit of time to press my finger on the sensor, and with that I get about, I think, 2 seconds or 1 second. And when it's over, so the unlock key isn't pressed anymore and it's high, first the LED turns off and then keyboard release all, so no keys are pressed. Here this part is all for the fingerprint sensor, that's not important except for this lines right here, because here is where my password gets typed in. For example, this writes hello 1234 and I basically use the keyboard right function, so it's like I will press the button on the keyboard, then after everything's typed in, it waits for 100 milliseconds and then it presses enter 2 times before it releases all the keys. And yeah, that's basically it. As I said, not really complicated. And it's done, so let's see if it works. And the answer is yes, it works perfect. I'm using it for a couple days now and it really makes work easier. So I hope you liked this video. If so, feel free to like, share and subscribe. Here more videos, here you'll find my channel. Have a nice day and see you soon.